Live now. Hold on. Let me see if it comes through.
Are we live?
Yeah, you're live.
We're live.
Hey,
Hola.
Hola.
Hola, mi gente.
Hola, mi gente. I'm Awilda.
And I'm Mildred.
And we are the Rios sisters. And come on in and welcome because we're going to be talking about
our
book.
And we're here today as authors
As book authors
of our book,
Being Boricua. And we have Angel Love
Figueroa.
assisting us.
He's on Instagram. He's on all the social networks, and he's our not only our dear friend for many years, but he's our videographer. He's our what is it? Our road manager.
Yeah.
He did the cover to I Don't Want You Back, the remake. So yeah, he's here with us, and we're grateful. Thanks, Angel.
So like my sister said, we come today as very proud book authors, standing on the shoulders of all those Latina authors that came before us and that inspired us. First off the bat, because the title actually was inspired by her, Esmeralda Santiago, who wrote When I Was Puerto Rican. The prologue to that book is powerful,
yeah,
and it's very, very moving. So she's always been an inspiration.
And shout out to her, because she might be on today. We had contacted her on Instagram, and she said thank you. So shout out to Esmeralda Santiago and Julia Alvarez and all the other Latina authors that
Sandra Cisneros,
who we stand on their shoulders or who have inspired us. Yeah. So,
but they came before us, so we have to give them props. So I like to start today by reading a little bit of from the book. Are people tuning in?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Hola.
So need my glasses, because we're book authors now. Use them a lot. Okay, so Being Boricua. Being Boricua celebrates the duality of being Puerto Rican in the U.S. and American on the island that was home to many of our childhood memories. Like two notes coming together melodically, or two voices blending perfectly in harmony. The resulting duality is always as American as apple pie, no matter which side of the Atlantic you're on.
And, Awilda and I, we weren't born in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
But Puerto Ricans, whether they're born in Puerto Rico or in the United States, are still American citizens. And I think that was something that became very apparent, especially during these tumultuous times in Puerto Rico after Maria, after the Hurricane Maria.
The devastation of Maria, Cat 4.
After that hurricane, over 3,000 of our people died, and no one said anything. No one said anything. And finally now, after the second storm, which did a lot of damage also, people are recognizing that we are American citizens.
Yes.
And that, we deserve, all whatever infrastructure or FEMA or any federal monies, should have gone to us, and they didn't after Maria. They didn't.
Now they're being released, and especially now that with all the problems with Luma and the electrical grid, and even recently there was a waiver enacted so that we can get fuel to generate
for the generators,
because we were just hit with Fiona, right?
Yeah, because
yeah,
as per the Jones Act, we really can't export nor import. And Puerto Ricans, I think, are at a point, especially after El Apagón, which means the Great Blackout, which Bad Bunny I'm sure everybody knows, came out with the video about it. Talked about, and ironically, Awilda and I, we were there this past April, and Awilda
that day,
yeah, and Awilda and I have been traveling to Puerto Rico for over 20 years, and never had the lights gone out in Puerto Rico in San Juan, right next to the San Juan Hotel in Isla Verde, and because of this Luma company and this electrical grid that was put up after Maria. This is what the Puerto Ricans, they went a year. They went a year without power, a year. So anyway.
And then that day there was a fire.
Right.
But what happened is that her and I, we were out to eat that day, and the lights totally went out, and we looked at each other, but we noticed that the waiter and the staff, that they were calm, and then the lights came back on. Because they got hit to the fact that nobody was going to come to help them. So and we had been hearing this from them.
Well, the lights went back on because all the Puerto Ricans on the island got themselves generators.
Yeah.
Okay? Because they were used to this with Luma.
They were left for dead.
They were left for dead. So, and what you see now is in Puerto Rico, and I always check Twitter, communities helping each other. They're not waiting around for the government who never came, who never even, acknowledged the deaths in Puerto Rico. And they're rising. Puerto Rico and, and I think also Puerto Rico's, we want an end to colonialism. Which these are some of the things that we do mention, like in the introduction of the book. But yeah, so.
And I think those 3,000 lives have to be honored.
Absolutely.
And have to be recognized because we feel it. We know, the devastation that Maria brought. And it was bad. Right. It was bad.
Right. Anyway. So I just want to mention that Awilda and I, not only are we authors, I'm sure, people out there know that, we are freestyle recording artists, and we have several titles that are up also for download
on Rios Records.
On Rios Records by the Rios sisters. I Don't Want You Back, Love Stays, and Don't You Criticize. And just recently, it's ironic, we put up a video of I Don't Want You Back on TikTok, and thank you for you guys who were participating and for all those beautiful comments. I don't know if you're not on TikTok. It's a good idea because TikTok licenses stuff so you can see our music and our videos, and we had like all these beautiful comments, and
you want to give the hashtag?
Yeah, the hashtag is the Real Sisters 57 TikTok. And I was talking about it with Angel, that he says that you guys taught us a lot. Like I didn't know what bop was. They would say, oh, it's bop, and I think that we learned that there was a catchy beat, and what else? FYP for your page. It was that. So yeah, so we learned.
It was refreshing to see all these people chiming in and giving their comments, and we always appreciate that.
Yeah,
we always appreciate that.
And they were saying, that's what old school freestyle is, So yeah, I guess so, because we did release, You in 35 years ago in 1987.
Yeah.
So that was our first release. Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, I don't know, I kind of been hearing like, oh, and it didn't come from us. It comes from fans, and they're entitled to their opinions, and they're entitled, but they're like, I don't know whether they're pitting or they're just saying old school versus new school. This is
not a competition.
It's not a competition. It never was. We're artists. We've been singing together since we were 5 years old.
Right.
As many of you read in this story, my sister and I, we knew that. We knew that our whole lives, and that's and in this book it shows the fact that we have one mind melodically, like two notes melodically together, and that's the way we write songs.
Because we're songwriters.
Because we're songwriters, and that's the way we perform. And that's how we wrote the book, because the book is memoirs. It's our memoirs.
And it's about
so when we lived in Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
and here. Yeah.
And one of my friends who read the book, and you know, he knows us, he knows me, he lives in my building, and he says, you know, how is it that you guys have the same memories, you know, but ironically we do. We have, you know, because we've been together since forever, you know. I mean, not now, we don't live together, you know, I got married, I had a son, whatever. But, you know, all those memories and those stories, you know, Awilda, I think, started writing them down years ago. And then, you know, I started adding on to them or whatever. And, you know, finally we decided that it was a good time to share these beautiful stories, you know, with you guys. So, yeah.
Maybe I should read another part of the book? Or do we have any questions?
So far, you just have some comments saying... So we got... Matos 317 says, Hola, bellezas reinas diosas.
Hola.
Hola.
And she also says, my timeless queens.
Aww.
And sends hearts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we want to read another part because we always believe this about Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a magical place. And we realize that when we came from East New York, from the gritty streets of East New York, to live to Puerto Rico, it was like paradise. And it was truly paradise. Puerto Rico is a magical place. There are 5 bioluminescent bays in the world. Puerto Rico contains 3 of them. We have a beautiful, beautiful tropical rainforest, El Yunque, which after Maria came, it
renovated.
It came back, where it rains all year round. Over 100 billion gallons of rainfall on this spectacular rainforest annually. Rainforests help fight global warming, and El Coquí, the beloved mascot and ecosystem protector, resides in El Yunque. As the sun sets in Puerto Rico, the tiny tree frog begins its evening chorale. Coqui, coqui. The island, once filled with millions of these frogs, but today only 17 species remain. Some are endangered or threatened because of deforestation. And just like the Puerto Rican people, El Coqui are resilient and their voices are loud. They will be heard. El Coqui are now an important symbol of Puerto Rico's culture and have become the unofficial mascot of our people. The Taino Indians of Puerto Rico considered their mountain range sacred.
Okay.
So
All right, do we have any questions or no?
No questions yet, but let's talk about some of the themes that you discuss in the book. Because I know family is very important to you. You have stories dedicated specifically to your mom, your dad, your sister. So what was it like growing up as twins, right? And then you identify with yourselves within the family. What are some of the stories that resonate with you?
You know, that brings to mind, I just had lunch with a girlfriend of mine that we went to Brooklyn College, and she says, you know, she had just read the book, and she says to me that she never knew, you know, that I had such a large family. And, you know, a lot of people don't even know that we have all these brothers and sisters, because basically my mother had 8 children. 4 of them were born in Puerto Rico. And then my mother, they waited 10 years, my parents, because they were together all their lives. And then they had us. We were like the second batch in Brooklyn, in New York. And so, yeah, you know, we remember living in Puerto Rico, and I loved it. You know, when we were there, I didn't want to come back, you know. I was, Awilda and I just, you know, till this day, you don't see this anymore with climate change and everything, but I remember lying back on the grass and looking up at the stars and just seeing a sky full of stars and sparkling, and I'm lucky now if I see 1 or 2 stars, even, and I've traveled, wherever we are, But yeah, so we do touch upon that. One of the stories, you want to talk about the broken bridge?
Yeah. The broken bridge is it's one of the first stories in the book, and I remember my parents when we were living there, we would go to Camuy to visit. We're from Atillo, Puerto Rico. For those of you who know some of the pueblos,
It's near Arecibo.
It's we have Atillo, Camuy, Arecibo.
Yeah.
So we're like in the northwest. So anyway, my parents were like, "Oh, let's go to Camuy to visit your aunts," and I knew what that meant. That we were going to cross that bridge.
Because there was a river that it is still there. The river, we had seen that separates, Atillo
and Camuy. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. River, Rios, that's our name. Anyway, so, I remember my father, all my brothers and sisters crossed. My father had to literally put a plank, like a wooden plank, so that we could cross over the holes in the bridge. And, my older sister crossed. Of course, my mother crossed. Mildred crossed. And my brother, who now, he's passed away some time ago. And I was like, I'm not crossing that bridge. And, my father was very loving and encouraging and patient with me. And he kept on saying me, "Vente, bang," bang. And I'm like, no, Daddy.
Mind you, there's a raging river right under that bridge.
And I'm looking down at the whirlpools, and I'm going, oh shit, Anyway, so, my father kept on encouraging me, and at one point he just says to me, "Yo soy tu padre." Cross, yo soy tu padre. And that affirmation went through my soul, because I knew, and he was an excellent swimmer.
Yes.
Okay, because he grew up by the river. If you're in Puerto Rico, you better know how to swim, or else and the minute he said that to me, I knew that even if I did fall in that river, he would come and get me. And I quickly ran across and into his arms. And I'll never forget that.
And I want to remind people that the book is available on Amazon, Amazon.com, so you can order your book and read the vignettes, which are the stories, the little stories that we write about and whatever.
So being in a family of 8, how was that financially?
Well, you know what? I'm glad you asked that, because I never grew up with my older brothers and sisters.
Yeah, because it was 10 years.
Right, it was 10 years. So they were married and out of the house. I think the only one was and he's passed now, because my sister Anna is 3 years older than us. So Oscar is 10 years older than her. So that's 10-year span. And so yeah, I never really grew up with them. So, but my parents struggled. My mom was a seamstress.
And I know that they never we never felt it. I mean, we because we had so much love and we had everything that we needed. But I know that it was having twins.
Yeah.
I mean, for a mother, I think twins pick their mothers if you're into that spirituality type of thing,
which we talk about throughout the book.
Yeah, we talk about the spirituality, and she was that type of a mother that could handle it, But it must have been very hard for them, having to, we do mention that in the book.
Yeah,
You know, we always kind of felt like
ustedes son dos.
we got the hand-me-downs.
You know, ustedes son dos. You know, and I think that also made us be overachievers, you know, because I mean, Awilda and I, we were college graduates at 22. You know, we were working as bilingual teachers.
Pioneer
Bilingual teachers. We were one of the first certified bilingual English-Spanish teachers in Brooklyn College to graduate that. I think my sister Anna was the first class. She's 3 years older than me, and we came in right after that. But yeah, so, you know, and then we became a recording artist. We were songwriters. We're also SAG-AFTRA actors. Okay, so, you know, I think growing up like that, and you know, and just having my dreams.
Middle children.
Yeah.
You know, but we were in our own world though. We had each other. Middle children tend to get lost.
Yeah.
So, but we had the benefit of having each other. So that was good. But there were times where we felt that we were a burden, you know.
So as young women growing up, how was your fashion sense?
Oh my God.
Well, that I give credit to my mom, who was a seamstress and sewed all our clothes, because really we couldn't afford it. And she, you know, they talk about designers and stuff like that just design and don't sew. My mother, not only did she design the clothes, she cut the pattern, she sewed it. And my older sister Elba, and you know, they were just such a big influence, especially Elba. They used to call her La Rubia Peligrosa because she was stunning, just stunning. And you know, one of the stories talks about her that, you know,
I admired her.
We wanted to be like her and stuff, and that's where we get
coming down the block with the feathered hat.
The feathered hat.
I loved it.
You know, and I remember her. You know, she had that feathered hat. It reminded me of Rita Moreno. Just came out recently. You know, that she had that documentary, and she had that feathered hat, and that's the feathered hat that my sister wore coming down the block. And I remember people staring at her because, you know, you always gonna get the haters, you know. But she carried it. She had, you know, like a queen, you know. And I think that's where Awilda and I, we got, you know, our, you know, confidence and our, we just wanted to be like her, you know.
The patchwork jeans, the patchwork pants. That was another, and now you're seeing it as style. Styles.
Yeah.
Recently we were on set, we were doing a video for somebody else anyway, but somebody had jeans like that, and I wrote a story about that. So you know, my mother, she did that so that I would, because the jeans, you know, in those days it was hard to find a good pair of jeans, especially since we were taller and all that. And
we didn't have the money.
We didn't have the money.
You know.
But she would put the fabric on them, and they became unique, and
because they were so worn down from Awilda washing them and stuff. Because basically it was one of her only pair of jeans that fit. You know, and so she would, you know, put the patches on the jeans as they got worn down. And you know, if anything, now you're seeing that, right, with the jeans, you know, cut in the shoulders and everything.
Yeah, I said my mother would have put patches on them, but now they're doing that. Now they're putting the patches on them.
So let's talk about some of the other themes. Let's talk about some of the other themes that people might be experiencing today, because you touch upon them in your book about mental health, right?
Right.
You know,
well, Angel, go ahead.
We're going through a lot of hard times with these past few years, and just
with the mental health.
You know, a lot of people are going through tough situations. We're all going through it, and it can show itself in certain ways, right? Like people can be stressed out and break down and stuff. And
one of the stories that I wrote, and I think a lot of people can connect to that. You know, I know that Angel did, because, you know, if anything, you know, he talked about his experience. And the story was called Dolores. And Dolores was my mom. And, you know, she she had 8 children, you know, and you know, we were poor, and even though, you know, my father, you know, was there with her, and you know, my father was a constant, you know, and he did the best that he could, you know. I remember living in Hendrick Street, you know, and that's when, you know, one of the times that Mom went and took us. After that, she took us to Puerto Rico. Yeah,
I think it was
right after that, because my mother had a nervous breakdown, and you know, I always remember that because she had such a hard life, you know, raising 8 kids, poor. You know, here it was in East New York, Brooklyn. It was rough, you know. It got really rough. And that's when my mother said, no, we're going to Puerto Rico, you know. And I'm so glad she did. But, you know, I remember her coming down the block, you know, in the winter without any shoes on. And I end the story, you know, I know her well because that was my mother. And she didn't recognize me. She didn't know who I was. I think I was maybe 9 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, but I think that, you know, Angel here, who has asked me that question, and he says, you know, that his mom and, you know, el cambio de vida, you know, that women go through that, you know, and women and men, you know, and now young people with COVID and stuff. And now the thing is, you know, at least we're starting to talk about it.
Yes.
You know,
which is important.
Which is important. And it doesn't just happen to women going through their changes. It happens to men, to young people.
I remember when we were meeting, because, you know, we wrote this during the pandemic, so we were Zooming with our editor, and she was going over that particular story, Dolores, and she kept on telling me, she kept on saying, but who's and I kept on telling her, let's go to the end, let's go to the end. And you know, at one point, I remember telling her, you know, that you know, I'm in therapy, and I said to her, and I confided in my editor, and I said to my editor, I says that the first thing that I told my therapist was, am I gonna have a nervous breakdown? Am I gonna be like Mom? Is that gonna happen to me? And she said, no, Wilda, no, you're not. But when I said that to my editor, and then my editor revealed that her too, she was seeing a therapist 3 times a week. So it's not as stigmatized.
Yeah, the stigma's lifting, you know, and that we need it to, for men, women, you know, for all of us.
And especially with the pandemic and everything.
You know, but the story of my parents, you know, and for a long time, you know, there's issues with all families or whatever, but I just came to recognize that my parents, even though it was very difficult and they had a hard life, theirs was a love story.
A true
love story that they stood together.
No matter what.
You know, nobody ever had to, you know, take my father to court for child support when my mother took us and moved us to Puerto Rico. No. He was there. He was always there, my father. And I so love and admire him. And again, this book is an homage to them because, you know, of how hard it must have been for them, you know. And like somebody says said in TikTok with us, you know, they're not Boricua, they're very Boricua. No, honey, we're Boricua. We're, you know, not born on the island, but you know, we're bilingual teachers and we speak, you know, Spanish, English fluently, which, you know, unfortunately, a lot of Puerto Ricans are losing their language, 2nd, 3rd generation.
We always feared that.
Yeah.
So Matos 317 is sending you a virtual hug. She says she's also a former East New York resident from Brownsville.
Yes.
And
it was rough, man.
She says she's going to order the book too.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
So growing up with your story of living in New York, living in Puerto Rico, so how long did it take for you to see yourselves in the media? What was the movie? What was the show that you recognized yourself?
As actors?
As Latinas, as Boricuas, as
Oh, you're saying, yeah, okay. So, for a long time, we always were singers, and then we became professional singers. But I remember, not seeing ourselves represented.
We still don't.
Well, we still don't. We still don't. But I remember, and it was a group of us. It was teachers. It was my older sister, and we went to see In the Heights. And we all sat there. It was a beautiful balcony, and it was the first time that I had seen. So,
any kind of diversity.
Yeah, Rita Moreno says it, and that's, I want to go back to Rita Moreno, that, when she received the Oscar, she said, and that was another reason why we wrote Being Boricua.
That she should have said it.
That she said that she didn't, in her documentary, she says, I should have talked about being Boricua, being Puerto Rican. We, of course, say Boricua because we think it's more authentic, because Boricua comes from Borinquen, which is the name of the
Taínos. Indians. Yeah.
Okay, so what were we talking about?
We were talking about In the Heights.
So we went to see In the Heights, and it was just unbelievable. And the one scene that I remember that we later, Mildred we both ended up working in the movie in the background. But that one scene was a dream sequence. And in that dream sequence, you saw all the immigrants, the Cubans, because they
Dominicans,
started, you saw them all like in the old garb. And it was magical. And it was just wonderful. And of course, we all know that Lin-Manuel went on to
do Hamilton.
Do Hamilton, and, the music for Encanto.
Oh, right.
And now we're starting to see a representation.
Because my son,
long overdue.
Yeah, who works in Disney, he was telling me that he was working with the kids with the movies and stuff, and the kids just kept on asking about Encanto. They didn't want to see anything else, and we're finally seeing that, but it took all these years to see some type of diversity. With Latinos and people of color, it's, we really, we got a long way to go. We still have a long way to go, so, yeah.
You're getting some shout outs here for Orange is the New Black.
Oh!
They recognize you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we were looking a little scary up in there. Yeah.
We ended up, getting featured roles on Orange is the New Black, and that was season 6, episodes 8, 11, and 12, as twin hairdressers. And we were like murdering, I don't want to say murdering bitches, right?
Yeah.
Which I loved, but if you see us, it's
even taking that role, we had done some background on it, and I remember seeing so many, first of all, females on set, that many, because that's another thing that you don't see that many women. So that kind of that helped me to accept to take the role, and seeing women directing it, and seeing all the women representation. And I remember one woman telling me, what happened to these women could happen to anybody. And that was when I said, okay, I can do this, because
but when Christians started watching Netflix, that was years ago, when because Orange is the New Black was one of their biggest shows, and I says, they need more diversity up in here. They need Latinas, they need more, and as the show developed and went on, they did finally start,
Well, they had, when I did it up in Orangeburg, they had.
Yeah. Well, it was one of the few shows that started, to start, and women, and directors and whatever, yeah. So, we did Orange is the New Black, and we will also have featured roles in Bad Education with Hugh Jackman. I mean, you saw us very briefly there, but also with Aquafina. She's the series Nora from Queens. We had a featured role there. So I would like to do more, and we probably will do speaking roles, but I don't really want to do like background anymore. I want to do if anything, it has to principal work. Like us Latinos and people of color should be getting. At this point, yeah.
Okay, so we got Ms. Ismo 112 is talking about they want to see you in concert again for the Freestyle Lovers, and she says, we miss you guys. I remember seeing you guys at 1018.
Oh my God.
Oh, you're going back, honey.
We were there every month. Yeah.
You know what? To that point, we just did a video on TikTok. If you haven't checked it out, which made a lot of noise, we did I Don't Want You Back. So it's the Rios Sisters 57 on TikTok. But, we're still performing. We're still available for bookings. But, what we find with this freestyle genre is that
the lack of authenticity. Let's just put it that way.
One of the things is, I don't know. I remember back when we started, back in 1987, 1988, I remember two girls posing as the Rio sisters in California. And somebody had told me, and I didn't believe it. I says, how could you do that? And, unfortunately, you have quite a bit of frauds in freestyle. Because I know those two girls, I have pictures of them. That was
Well, we didn't know it back then. We came to know it like recently.
That you still have people who don't sing their songs, don't write their songs. Because Awilda and I, we wrote all our songs, except for Are You Looking for Love? But even that, we arranged it and performed it.
Sang.
Yeah, that, there's kind of like a lot of frauds and whatever. And I just think that you see the same freestyle acts over and over again. And,
people continuously ask for us.
All
and we
the time.
always say, contact your promoter.
Right. I said, and they said that on TikTok, where are you performing? When's your tour or whatever? And, we're available. We're available for bookings, but,
we don't do no free shows.
Right. So we're available for bookings, and we are still performing. And so we wanted to mention that.
I don't know. That's all the questions I got. What other topics you want to talk about?
No, that's it then. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we just wanted to connect with you guys about the book, and just if you haven't purchased it, and please do so. I mean, you're gonna love it. Especially
it did debut #1
Yeah.
in 3 categories in Brooklyn.
Right.
Shout out Brooklyn in the house.
Yeah, and in Hispanic literary criticism and
in travel books.
Yeah. So yeah.
And a lot of people, they do go to Puerto Rico and they wanna know more about Puerto Rico.
So shout out to you people. Love you guys.
Love you.
Thank you for your support and love, and we'll see you soon. Go to TikTok for our videos.